We can't even fill Goodison, so there's no use moving to the bigger ground.
We should leave the past where it is.
Mr Johnson perhaps should look for some new players first, I think.
Now, if our motto is only the best is good enough, we've got to move on with the times.
I just can't understand the move myself. I can't understand the need to move.
Get a brand new stadium.
Okay.
The best in Europe.
All the lads who I know want to stay. I think it's a good move. Definitely a good move.
It started as a whisper. Then rumours ran around the ground. Will he, won't he? Where will he get the cash from? Then in March 1997, Liverpool's Daily Post ran this headline. That day started the most emotional debate amongst Evertonians in the club's history. On Tuesday, May the 6th, 1997, Everton's chairman, Peter Johnson, finally revealed his dream. The vision of the future. Everton's future. A £100 million state-of-the-art super stadium, which Mr Johnson believes is a chance of a lifetime and will put the club at the forefront of British football. As chairman, he stated, "I see it as my duty to restore Everton to the forefront of European and world football. I share the same dreams, ambitions as every Evertonian. It's time to take the Blues to a new home. We're moving."
Well, that's it. I have a dream for Everton to be winning all the major trophies at Goodison Park and to redevelop the stadium. Why shouldn't I be listened to?
My point of confusion with the whole thing is that we have a perfectly good stadium, which, you know, it might have its shortcomings, but nothing that, you know, a bit of imagination and a bit of thoughtful design couldn't sort out. And why you want to just then demolish that and go and rebuild the whole thing a few miles away is just beyond me.
Right.
And that's what you need, somewhere where you've got a proper car park. You've got to walk half a mile from the car park here, and then on the street you can't park. So the car parking is dead, and you want something to bring the crowds in. That's what's keeping the crowds away. People come in their cars these days, and there's nowhere to park, so that's what's keeping a lot of them away. You get the right place to park, and then you get a full crowd.
Not really, that isn't Everton, is it? You move away, you may get a new ground and new players and stuff like that, but it's still Everton. The players don't make Everton, it's the club itself. And this is the home of Everton, so I want to stay here.
Mr Johnson said that he understands the affection and tradition that is associated with Goodison Park, but the time's come to move forward to the millennium and take Everton onto a higher plane.
Look at the state of all this here, no? Can't make nothing, you can't do nothing with this, can you? You know what I mean? Nice new grounds, 60,000 stadium, laughing.
A giant stadium for the club to do right.
I don't care where we play, but we need a bigger stadium, get more supporters in.
This new stadium will be fan-friendlier. Mr Johnson then decided to hold a vote on the issue by asking for the support of every Everton fan to back him and place the club back among the elite. Problem: the old Goodison Guard wanted to remain at home. They had grounds for concern.
The main reason the group was formed was to say this is a group which opposes the move purely on the basis that we think we can stay at Goodison Park.
The belief that more people in a bigger stadium, in a 60,000 stadium, will bring success and some sort of European success is untrue. And I would like to see statistics showing this. I would actually like to see this argument, this debate, which there hasn't been. Let's bring it out in the open. Let's produce the facts and the figures. But why won't they be produced? Why are Evertonians accepting it?
Give me the new camp any time to this dump. I rest my case here.
This stadium needs every side of it redeveloping. And also, I know parking is put forward by Johnson as a reason for moving, but it's true, there isn't any parking around here. It's very tight around here, the streets are tight, and the residents don't really want people parking in their streets. They'll be sorry when the ground goes, I think, because I think it's a heartbeat of the community.
Any forward-thinking city in Europe and in the world is now thinking that what you've got to do is keep all your activities within the city, not spread it all out. Don't create these waste grounds in the inner cities. Develop those areas. So what are we doing? We're going exactly the other way at Everton. There we have it. The Goodison is a vital part of the economy of Walton and County Road. Right? Without that, County Road will be one step closer to being an inner city wasteland.
Peter Johnson put his reasons across to the fans publicly in a 2-page spread in the Liverpool Echo on May the 9th, 1997. These are the reasons why I believe we'll be accepting a glorious opportunity to take Everton forward if we leave Goodison Park. Mr. Johnson also had his own slogan. He was confident that the fans would back him.
Why not? Stay at Goodison Park, that's where their history is.
And stated publicly that if they didn't, Everton would stay at Goodison.
This is Everton, and this is where Everton should stay.
He said that he'd met no one against the move, apart from those involved in what he called the Goodison for Everton splinter group. The campaigners of this group had invited Mr. Johnson, the press and club directors to an open public debate at the Vernon Sangster Centre on Saturday the 12th of April 1997.
This is the fans. These are the fans that he wanted to meet. This is the opportunity he had of meeting the fans, and he hasn't taken it. And we don't want to move from Goodison Park. We have got an alternative plan to extend Goodison Park to the 65,000 that he requires. He won't listen to our plan. It was originally option 1. He's only concerned with option 2.
Before this public meeting took place, a small and private one was held on the day of the Grand National rerun. Members of the GFE met Mr. Johnson, who made them welcome and received them alone. He made it quite clear to them he definitely wanted to move. His motives were simple. Goodison, apparently, is beyond rescue. He said that the GFE simply can't see and are blind to the needs of 21st century football. The GFE and others do not feel that the current board of Everton have investigated all the options.
If you study every option that's available to you, you'll come to the conclusion that there's no need to go anywhere. Everton can redevelop at Goodison Park.
And I think that if a feasibility study shows that Goodison can be done on site, it should be shown to the people. And then, further along down the road, he can come up with his glossy drawings, hopefully better than the ones what they put out, and put them next to each other and have a proper, fair, conducted ballot done by a total independent body. I don't mean by us or him, I mean a totally independent electoral society, i.e. from day one prove that it's absolutely 100% safe. And then if all the people still want to go, I'm gone.
And they feel that the least the supporters deserve is a full and open debate with all opinions having an equal platform.
Being someone who likes to see both sides of an argument, I must admit I would like to see what could be done here at Goodison Park to refurbish it. I would like to see the evidence that would say we have tried everything we can to look at ways to refurbish here and get it up to the right standard where we could get the numbers into the ground and so on. And then if it were proved from that, having seen that we ought to move, I think that most people would agree then that we ought to move.
While I've been involved with the campaign to stay at Goodison, I've deliberately not campaigned on a sentimentalist base. It does exist, but I've just argued on a logical base. I've just argued on a rational base. Something my instincts tell me that we don't have to move from Goodison Park. And if it can be proved to me categorically that we can't stay at Goodison Park, well, I'll gloss over my sentimentalism.
The GFE feel at a disadvantage with the current Everton board, as they can't hope to compete on an equal financial footing. They feel that Mr Johnson and the board are rushing through an opinion poll, which is based on a glossy colour brochure, which will impress the majority of fans to vote to move. Johnson, by his own admission, has produced a one-sided piece of literature. For example, this staged photograph of Goodison's men's toilets with paper strewn across the floor, the caption reading, "Do you want to stay with poor facilities?"
So actually the picture that he put in the paper, I think it was specially litter strewn to make it look bad. Because frankly, I've been going here 62 years and I've never seen a toilet like that.
Because the toilets are crap, the ladies' toilets.
Which
we might get a decent toilet, we might get a decent parking place.
Any job around about could fix the toilets and make them look like marble halls in a couple of days, never mind. And he's been here 3 years. And he's in charge of a food factory and he leaves toilets like that and then goes and publishes pictures in his brochure. He should be ashamed of himself.
This photograph, taken from a questionable position, the wide-angle lens may exaggerate the scale of the pillar in the foreground. The caption, "Do you want to stay with obstructed views?"
You go in the seats and there's always an obstructed view. Well, that pays me off, you know. You pay 15 quid for a ticket and you can only see, you miss half the action.
Is this brochure truly giving fans the choice, as it seems to claim, or is it a matter of you can choose any colour so long as it's blue?
At the end of the day, I think what he wants, he gets, and that's all there is to it. Just please.
As the issue of the state of the toilets features so prominently in the brochure, can one presume that this is one of Mr Johnson's main arguments in favour of the move? The photograph failed to convince the GFE and many fans we interviewed. Moreover, it caused anger with many people who argued that the toilet should have been renovated regardless of whether Everton moved or not.
He should be expecting the public health people knocking on his door to see the toilets like that, because the toilets are right next to where you buy your grub, your pot of tea and your hot dog.
There were also questions raised as to why there was no feasibility study about Goodison's redevelopment included in Mr Johnson's glossy brochure.
As I said to the chairman, you prove it to me that there's no other alternative but to move from Goodison Park and I'll support him. But he can't prove that to me. He turned round and said that out of the 10 people that he wrote, 7 wanted to go. 2 were sitting on the fence, and I don't know what the other one was doing. Right? But we've had a survey in the Daily Post, and 61% of that survey said that they wanted to stay where they were.
The general feeling, the overwhelming feeling, has been that we ought to stay. And it surprises me that the vote is so high to move. And I can't disbelieve someone if that's what they tell me. If the evidence is there, then I have to believe what the evidence is. But I haven't seen the evidence and I don't know how it was done.
And I think that if a feasibility study shows that Goodison can be done on site, it should be shown to the people.
So the only one that seems to want to go is him.
The campaigners had also asked that the Electoral Reform Society be brought in to oversee the vote. Johnson, though, stated he himself would oversee the vote and invited the GFE to observe, an offer which they rejected.
We couldn't monitor it properly. We asked for independent people to oversee it. He wouldn't have that. And then finally, the way it was panning out, because it was looking as though the result was going to be inevitable. It's an overwhelming majority. We weren't happy with the process of it. If we'd have gone in, it would have lent some sort of credibility to a wholly incredible vote. It's as simple as that.
Well, we brought into question the way that it was, the vote and everything was all carried about. And actually in the Daily Post the day before, a couple of days before they ran that article, what they insinuated, or they come out and said, was that we'd insulted the club by making allegations that the actual process was flawed.
I do. If he wants to get rid of the likes of us, the cynics that say like, oh well, I don't know whether that's legit or what. Like, if he wants to stop that once and for all, you just do the count. You do them in public with a magistrate or with a trusted member of society. You count them there and then, and that finishes the argument.
Nobody knows who's going to own the new Goodison Park. So there are three key questions. Where are we going? How much is it going to cost? And where's the money coming from? And as well as that, who's going to own it? This is what we haven't been told. A lot of fans have voted so far on a one-sided issue, and they haven't been given the nuts and bolts that you really, really need in order to cast a vote one way or the other on what is, after all, a very emotive subject.
The Church of St Luke's is unique. It's the only church with a sports ground connected to it. We asked the Reverend Harry Ross for his views on this debate.
Oh, it would have a terrific impact on the economy of this area. A lot of the small businesses around here, whether it be the takeaway food stores, whether it be the other stores around the area, whether it's the pubs or places like that, they rely so much on the football crowds to keep them going, and of course they're then an amenity for the rest of the community when the football is not here. And if you take the football away, it really would hit the economy of this area. I mean, some of the businesses would go to the wall, but you can't go on with the facilities that we've got at the moment. And of course, if you look at some parts of the ground, you look at the Bullens Road stand, it's not in a good state at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very sort of emotional thing to move away from Goodison Park, but you can't run a football club just on emotions.
Our stadium mightn't be there all that much longer, so get it while you can.
Well, the history of the club, they've moved in the past. You know, so you've got a history of change and progression. So I don't see a problem. We've been able to sort of move on and say, OK, yeah, we've had some good times here. Well, there's some good times to be had in the future as well.
There was a church on this site long before Everton came. Everton have been here over 100 years, but the church has been here probably for about 140 years.
Everton Football Club was first established in 1878 under the name St Domingos, which was a local church team. The team played at Anfield until they moved to Goodison Park in 1892. The new ground cost the princely sum of £3,000 and was the biggest and best in Britain at that time. Everton's Goodison Park is steeped in both tradition and history. Since playing at Goodison Park, Everton have boasted many legends down the years. Jack Sharp, who played for England at both football and cricket. Harry Makepeace was another. Sandy Young, who scored the winning goal in the club's first FA Cup final success. Then came the immortal William Ralph Dean, better known as Dixie, who still holds the record for the most goals in a season. Dean's scoring ability led the team to win 3-0 in the 1933 FA Cup final against Manchester City. The team achieved a feat that has never been repeated since. They won the Second Division Championship, First Division Championship, and became the FA Cup winners in consecutive seasons. Again, we come to great players. Joe Mercer, the one and only Tommy Lawton, Ted Sagar, T.G. Jones, all wonderfully talented footballers who led this team to win the last championship before World War II. In the 1950s, Everton were relegated to the Second Division for only the second time in their history. In 1954, they finished runners-up to be promoted back to the top flight. George Mahon was the man who moved Everton to Goodison all those years ago. In light of the current proposals, what would he make of this move?
George Mahon was the man responsible for taking Everton Football Club away from the home at Anfield, across Stanley Park, and over to a new home at Goodison Park, a home that they've had for over 100 years. And in that time, Goodison Park has hosted cup finals, World Cup finals, and been visited by royalty. Goodison Park has become a stadium to be rivalled and envied by other clubs, not just throughout the country, but throughout the world. Mr. Johnson would claim to be a visionary in the same way that George Mahon was. He claimed to be the George Mahon of the 20th or 21st century. It remains to be seen whether the legacy that Mr. Johnson leaves us is as powerful and as potent as that which Mr. Mahon left us.
Andy Gray said that the Everton job was the only job he would leave Sky TV for, and when Peter Johnson heard this, he set up an interview with Gray. Due to be interviewed the next day was Howard Kendall. After the interviews, Andy Gray was clear favourite for the job. The fans, the chairman and the board alike were lifted by the appointment of Gray as the new manager. Kendall was asked if he would work in conjunction with Gray. Then came the bombshell that Gray was refusing the job. Gray had already said he was not prepared to work with Kendall. Everton chairman and fans couldn't believe it. People began to question Gray's motives in putting himself forward for the job. Johnson now had to start again in the pursuit of a new manager. He also had the problem facing him of the move from Goodison, as a lot of the fans were confused regarding the situation. The board decided to go after the most successful manager the team had ever had, Howard Kendall. Everton, having resolved the managerial situation, now decided to concentrate on the move from Goodison Park. Fans had heard Kirby Golf Course, United Utilities, Speke Airport, all as possible candidates for the new location. Fans who'd voted after the Chelsea game thought that they were going to the Kirby site.
I've got a message from Mr. Johnson. Go away, you're not wanted.
That's right.
Leave
Bill.
Kirby Golf Course alone. Stay at Goodison Park, what most of the Goodison fans want, not his phony ballot. Most of the Goodison fans want to stay at Goodison Park.
I don't want to go to Kirby.
Stay.
Stay. Stay here.
Stay.
Stay here.
Stay. 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 Stay.
Obviously, stay.
Stay. Stay here. Stay. 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 Stay.
If Everton move out to Liverpool, we're not Liverpool anymore, we're Knowsley. And people might argue and say, but most people in Kirby are Liverpool, etc. But we will not be Liverpool, we will be the team of Knowsley.
So why disrupt 30, 40,000 people round here that want to come and watch them every week? This is Everton, isn't it? Why should Everton play in Kirby? But it's not Liverpool.
It is Liverpool.
It isn't Kirby, it's not Liverpool. Kirby's Knowsley. Where'd you come from?
Mr Johnson says that we've outgrown Goodison. It's an old stadium. It can't be rejuvenated. It can't be rebuilt. He says we've got no option. We've got to look to the future. We've got to go forward.
It's right,
Would you agree?
Johnson's outgrown himself, mate.
No, he's not right. He's not giving it anymore. He's not giving enough thought. This is at Everton, nowhere else.
You think it's right?
Yeah.
You think it's right?
Yeah, get to Kirby, right? Think about those people, right, who can't get tickets because this is always sold out. Get there.
No.
Get to Kirby.
You think we'd have no problem selling out 60,000 in Kirby?
No, we would. No chance, mate.
Why? Because you live in Kirby. Because you live in Kirby. Don't want to go to Kirby, know what I mean?
It's only across the road from our house.
Chip him.
Yeah, get your Evertonian.
You're saying no to moving.
No, she's saying yes.
Say no to a move.
Go on, thank
Actually, I'm here for the golf course and I don't want them to take the golf course. No, they said to us, is there anywhere else that he could put his stadium without putting it on the golf course? And we said, yeah, the practice field. You spoke. And Helen said to them, come down if you want, have a look. We'll phone you back.
Listen, girl, we don't want to put it anywhere. We want to stay here.
You do. Yeah. And we want to stay on our golf course.
Well, we're
right.
not football supporters, but we want to stay here for the simple reason that this is Goodison Park.
We don't want to go to Kirby, you know, Johnson might. But you're not going to take that. You can sit on that.
I'm going to get to them. Thanks. Don't destroy them. Don't destroy Walsh. Don't destroy your city. Don't sell us out.
A meeting took place between Liverpool and Knowsley councils and the Everton board at Kirby Sports Stadium. But when they adjourned to the golf course, they were met by a picket line of objecting residents and members of the golf club.
This is an official picket line. An official picket line.
We're not nowhere, son. You're not getting past.
You're not getting past.
You're not getting past, lads. He'll be here all day. Tell him he's not getting. You're not getting on.
Forget it, lads.
Tell him to get out and show his face.
Get back to City Road. Well, he's still not getting it.
Joy's in the job, eh?
It's our golf course. It's nothing to do with Everton or anybody else. It belongs to us, the people who have used it for 30 or 50 years.
I'm an Evertonian, but this is the golf course I play on, and that's it.
So what are you going to do? Don't you want him to come here and see if there's any alternative that he can offer for you?
We don't want no alternative. Let him go elsewhere.
It takes years. It takes years for a golf course.
Let him go elsewhere.
Go and get brown belt line. Go and get brown belt line. You're not getting this. No, you're not getting on. I don't care. I don't want to listen to you. You're not getting on.
You've had your wine, your coffee. You can go home now.
Hang on, ask Tommy to put his bin wagon that way, and we'll get that way.
Okay.
We'll back him out. You put your bin wagon that way so we can't get past you, and we'll back him into there.
The bus was turned back. This brochure was given out at the Kirby Sports Stadium meeting on Monday the 28th of July 1997, during a session from which all press were barred. The colourful booklet compiled by Everton Football Club makes the following statements as their reason to move. Present stadium is tightly enclosed within a residential area. Parking and traffic congestion is a matchday nightmare. Around 10% of the stadium's 40,150 seats have restricted views. Facilities are looking worn and shabby. The game and its supporters have changed faster than improvements to the ground can be made. Families would like to travel to matches together by car, enjoy a meal before the game, and perhaps visit the club shop afterwards.
Behind it. I did a little feasibility study of my own the other day, and it boils down to money, basically. As you pointed out, there's 40 odd pubs in the area around Goodison Park. 30,000 people go for a drink. They spend £5 each when they're there. Now, if he's got that income coming into Goodison Park, he stands to make 3.8 million a season, just off the catering alone. Another 1.2 million off the car parking. That's £5 million a season. Now, if that money was going to Everton Football Club to buy a defender or something like that, I might be prepared to go along with that, but I'm not sure that's where it would end up.
He wants money for his own benefit. It's not for the club, it's for himself. He's not taking to the club. I bet you don't put this on because I know you're
Liverpool City Council will never let them go.
Why?
They won't, will they? Look at all the money they're going to lose. These shops are going to close down, aren't they?
Do you reckon they should move to Kirby?
As a taxi driver, no, because it's out of our area and we won't be able to pick up there.
The reason why Everton's going to move is because it's going to be used for other stuff. It's not going to be used for Everton Football Club. Other sports are going to be getting used on there, like rugby and that.
I have never ever, and I speak to the Everton hierarchy quite a lot. The possibility of sharing the ground has never come up, and I don't believe for 1 second that Everton will share a ground with anybody.
However, the brochure's most shocking revelation comes under the heading of Ground Conference and Leisure Possibilities, in which it says, ground sharing with other sports, i.e. rugby league.
They want to build a football stadium first and foremost, and I'm sure that's what they're going to do. So I think any talk about them sharing with a rugby club or anything like that, I just think that's far-fetched.
The official ballot results also feature in the brochure claiming that 84% of 21,000 fans voted to move. But if we're to believe the club's claim that upward of 38,000 voting slips were given out, then what's happened to the remaining 17,000? Network 5 conducted its own survey independent of the GFE or club. A vast majority of those fans surveyed wished to stay at Goodison Park, and those who'd voted yes to move seemed to be under the impression that they had no alternative. When presented with alternative plans and proposals, many stated they would reconsider their position and vote to stay if it could be proved to them that Goodison can be renovated. An alternative plan has been put forward by Mr. L. Nolan, a retired master builder. In his opinion, Goodison Park can be redeveloped into a 60,000-seater stadium. He's conducted his own feasibility study and his plans seem precise and viable.
Mr. Johnson's talking about spending 100 million. I reckon at the most, this would be a 3-tier stand. So we'll say that one costs 4, and that's only single tier. So we'll say another 2 tiers on it, call it 15 million.
The extension proposed by Mr. Nolan would be relatively cheap compared with the cost of a new stadium, which, according to some, could escalate to as much as £150 million.
And if that can be done, they can start on it immediately. There's no worry about planning permission. The council grants it gladly rather than see this place pulled down.
If Goodison could be developed, I'm sure that the present board would be the first to step in and redevelop it. The decision's been taken now. I mean, all the facts were laid before the fans, and they had good time to debate it. It wasn't just thrust on them overnight, and 84% was a massive, massive yes for the move. As I said, people will be very emotional, very bitterly disappointed on the day they go, but I think they will go in the knowledge that Everton are moving forward. And Everton are a big club. The club's motto, only the best is good enough. It's absolutely important that a club like Everton is powering on, making progress, not looking back. And I actually think that the move in the long term will be one of the best things that's ever happened to Everton Football Club.
Mr. Johnson's already buttonholed several of them. Well-known people like John Parrott, Derek Hatton, even Brian LeBone, Duncan McKenzie. He's buttonholed them all to say we'd be sad to see the end of Goodison, but we must move forward. Mr. Johnson's convinced us we must move forward into the 21st century.
We own all the land, as everybody knows, to the rear of the park end. His plan was to phase the redevelopment of Goodison and move it step by step back towards Walton Lane, thus extending the Goodison roadside and the Bullens roadside. On all four sides of Goodison, there's options to open up, and it certainly betrays the argument and the myth that Goodison is landlocked.
We never heard a landlocked argument come from Liverpool. We never heard a parking debate come from Liverpool. Liverpool, in fact, have discussed about a move, but they decided to develop their own ground and invest in their heritage.
Copies of Mr. Nolan's plans have been forwarded to Mr. Johnson on numerous occasions, but to date, Mr. Johnson has declined to comment on.
Well, there's a saying in the building trade, if it fits, it's feasible.
Parking jackers now, 20 months in dispute. There's new women in this one. Yeah, in the middle is again. Parking jackers. Nothing else, not fair enough. There's another one just come out.
So, will this new dream of one man, Peter Johnson, have the full support of the fans? He says he wants a bigger, better Everton. This new stadium of 60,000 will demand drama and success. He claims it is his dream stadium. But does Peter Johnson have the fans' concern at heart? And what of the GFE? Are they justified in their campaign? And have they the right to act for and on behalf of the fans?
I think the Goodison for Everton group have achieved a lot. And I think it was very, very important that there was a debate. Some clubs have just gone about moving their stadiums. They've just decided without actually going to the fans. So first of all, full credit to Everton for going to the fans and having the poll. Full credit to the Goodison for Everton group for sparking the debate and for playing a part in the debate, because it was absolutely vital that there was a debate, because it's such an important issue. It's such a passionate issue.
What motives other than their love for the club could the GFE have for wanting to stay? The choice is yours.
At the end of the day, these people here, these people all around you, at the end of the day, they don't want big grounds, they want silverwood.
If Everton played on a postage stamp in the middle of the River Mersey, I'd probably go and watch them because I'm an Evertonian through and through.
You can't take that, you can't trust a man. The supporters club is a prime instance. We were promised the new facilities because they were getting a grant off the Football Trust. We got up at 12 months and then Clifford Finch, or through Johnson, threw us out to make more money. It hasn't made any more money, in fact it's a failure, but we're still sitting in a pub over it. Everton Supporters Club virtually has ceased to exist because of Peter Johnson.